On the surface, this looks like a pretty standard government press release, right? A few bureaucrats are getting moved around. But what if it's not really about taking action, but creating an illusion? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this recent IAS reshuffle and ask a really important question. Is this a genuine move to improve things, or is it just a carefully crafted distraction?
Yeah, this quote right here, it really hits the nail on the head. When a state is staring down the barrel of massive, real-world crises, you gotta wonder, why does the government's top priority seem to be playing a game of administrative musical chairs? It's a question that kind of forces you to look a little deeper. So let's start with the basic facts. What actually happened? Well, back on December 8th, 2025, the government issued what looked like a super routine transfer order for several IAS officers. And just in case you're not familiar, that's the Indian Administrative Service. We're talking about the country's top career civil servants. On paper, this was just business as usual. The order moved several key people, including folks like Dr. Joram Beda and Isawanda Laloo. And the announcement was presented as completely normal, just another day in the bureaucratic cycle. But given all the problems the state is facing, should this really be business as usual? That's where the real story starts.
Okay, so this brings us to the timing of it all. To really get why this matters, we have to put this seemingly routine action up against the backdrop of the state's most urgent, pressing issues. And wow, this is where the disconnect just smacks you in the face. While the government is busy shuffling personnel, the state is grappling with these massive, unresolved crises. We're talking about a serious HIV epidemic, infrastructure that's literally crumbling, and even teachers not getting paid. The contrast here really makes you question the priorities, doesn't it? Which all boils down to this one essential question. Are these transfers a real strategy to solve these deep-rooted problems? Or are they just a convenient way to move the blame around, creating the illusion of progress while the actual issues are left to fester?
And that leads us right to the core argument here. This idea that these reshuffles are often much more about the appearance of taking action than they are about any real substantive reform.
The source material doesn't pull any punches. It says these transfers are a powerful political tool. They let the government look decisive and responsive, all without having to do the much, much harder work of actual, meaningful reform. Think of it this way. It's like treating the symptoms, not the disease. The individual officers are being treated like they're the problem, but the real sickness, that's broken policies and flawed systems, and simply changing the person who's operating a broken machine is never going to fix the machine itself. And here's how it plays out, time and again. A problem gets a lot of public attention, let's say in the health department. What's the government's response? Bam! Transfer the health secretary. Then they can go out and publicly say, we've taken action, we've installed fresh leadership. And just like that, the issue is solved in the public's mind, even if nothing about the root cause of the crisis has changed at all. So what's the bigger systemic issue that allows this whole cycle to just keep repeating itself? Well, it's a concept known in Indian bureaucracy as the transfer posting Raj. And understanding this is the absolute key to seeing the illusion of reform. So what is the transfer posting Raj? Basically, it describes a system where an officer's time in any one job is often super short and totally unpredictable. Transfers can be used to reward political allies or to sideline officers who are seen as, a little too difficult. And it all happens without much transparency. It makes long-term planning and real accountability nearly impossible. And the consequences are just huge. I mean, imagine you start a major infrastructure project. You pour a year of your life into it and then, poof, you're transferred. Who's going to see it through? Who gets held accountable if it fails? This constant churn means officers never get to develop deep, specialized knowledge, and it leaves the rest of us just guessing whether a transfer was a promotion or a punishment. So you have to ask yourself a pretty fundamental question. For an officer to truly get a handle on their department, launch new projects, and actually see them through to the end, how much time do they really need? And maybe more importantly, how much time are they actually getting? And when you look at the data, whoa, the contrast is just stark. Now, these numbers can change, but the pattern is pretty clear. In a state like Kerala, for example, officers often get to complete a full 3-year term, which creates stability. But in Meghalaya, the average time in a post is significantly shorter. And that's not just a statistic, it's a giant blinking red light for systemic instability. Okay, so we've laid out the problem, but hey, don't just take our word for it. We want to empower you to see this for yourself. So we've got 3 critical questions you can go investigate to really understand the impact of the system. First up, go look up the data. What's the average tenure for the heads of really critical departments, like health or education or the public works department? Is it a year? 2 years? Less? The answer to that question tells you everything you need to know about the potential for long-term planning. Next, try this little experiment. Pick one of the officers who has just transferred. Go track their career path for the last 5 years. How many different jobs have they had? Were they in any single position long enough to truly master it and see a major project from start to finish? And finally, this is the big one. This is the question that really gets to the heart of the matter. If an officer starts a big project but gets moved after a year and a half, who is ultimately responsible for whether it succeeds or fails? The officer who's long gone? The new person who just walked in the door? Or does accountability just vanish into thin air? That's the question we'll leave you with.